Welcome to the Thursday edition of Take 5 for Torah. Today is August 28th, and we are discussing an element of the Parsha. It's Parsha Shoftim this week. And there are institutions of leadership that this Parsha is dedicated to presenting to the people. I'm going out of order of the text, but you'll see why. We start with the Melech, the most important of all the institutions. We learned earlier in chapter 8 of Sefer Shmuel why Shmuel, the prophet, the judge, was upset when Bnei Yisrael wanted to fulfill this mitzvah. It's considered one of the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah to appoint a king. So why was he upset when they wanted to do so? So perhaps they weren't ready for it, or they said, give us a king to be our judge, and he was their judge. So it was really a slap in his face. But also, like the Ran says, a king is not a judge. Those are two separate institutions in this parsha. The parsha is called Shoftim v'Shotrim. You have the judge, and later on in the parsha, you have the king. So if the king becomes the judge, that's not good. You're giving him too much power and you're behaving like the Goyim. We should not mix the executive with the judiciary. Those are two different institutions in this country, and there are two different institutions in the Torah framework. So when they said, Tznanonu melech l'shoftenu kechol hagoyim, that's precisely the point. So when the next pasuk describes why Shmuel was angry, it didn't say, Vayira b'nei Shmuel kasher sha'al ha'am tznanonu melech kechol hagoyim. Tznanonu melech l'shoftenu, shine. That's how they wanted to be like the Goyim, to give the king so much power. Right? These are different institutions. You have the Melech, the Malchus. You have the Shofet, the judiciary. You have the Kohen, the legislature, and the religious leaders. And then you have the Navi, the prophet, who we said just earlier that he should stand over all of them. It has to be clear that he can stand over all of them and rebuke the king, rebuke the judge, rebuke the Kohen if necessary. And there are stories throughout Tanakh, which we did earlier, where the good Navi does so. And when the nation, because we all sin, but when the nation hears this, good people will be put on the right path. Nebuch, for most of our history, the Amoses and the Hoseas and the Yeshayahus and the Michas and the Yirmiyahus and the Tzfanyas and the Chabakuks, they suffered significantly under their people who did not want to hear these words of rebuke. It's just a fact of life that the people who like to hear rebuke are usually the people who don't really need it so much. The people who need it don't usually like to hear it. Most people push back on rebuke. So the Navi has to stand over all of them, and that indeed creates a Mishkan. It creates a nation where God can reside amongst us. Melech, Mem, Shofet, Shin, Kohen, Chaf, Navi, Nun spells the word Mishkan. And indeed, when the entire nation moves and functions together in tandem, where each tribe does what they're supposed to be doing in their own way, in their own place in Israel, that creates what the Gemara calls a Merkava, the God's very chariot that Yechezkel speaks of when he talks about the four-figured face with an eagle on one side, the head of the bird kingdom, an ox on another side, the head of the animal kingdom, the lion on another side, the head of the beast kingdom, and the man who's the king over all. And those are the four faces of Yechezkel's figure that represents the four camps in Israel. We spoke about this once before, where at home plate you have Dan, whose flag had an eagle on it. At first base you have Reuven, whose flag had a man on it. Second base you have Yehuda, whose flag had a lion on it. And third base is Ephraim, who had an ox on it. And each one is flanked by two other tribes, where the pitcher's mound is the Mishkan, with the Leviim somewhere between the Mishkan and those three bases, the three families of Levi. And that created a beautiful framework for God's very presence to be felt. And when Israel works this way, and our leadership works with the Melech, Shofet, Kohen, and Navi, we create a veritable Mishkan for God to reside in our midst, wherever we are.